Welcome back. And the conversation, of course, is continuing during the break. Koa Frederick, just picking up with what you brought up and echoes the concerns of many. I don't think the government is sincere, he says, with this move, just a ploy towards a general election. Bona Kemei, clarity on this.
Mark, we are 200% sincere, Mark. And as I said, we didn't start this thing the other day. Neither were we going to, go live in the next 2 weeks, as most people want to believe. In fact, the latest that this system would have been live would have probably been June, July. And part of that journey, as I said earlier, included a well laid down public awareness, just the way we do all our, including launch and stuff like this. All those things were in the plan.
But not implemented.
So that the time for doing that, because we wanted to put the, to bring the system fast, configure. In fact, we were at the point of discussing with the MNOs to see how technically this can be integrated and stuff like this. Because remember, the concept had already been agreed upon 5 years back, in 2012. So it's a package. It's not like something that has cropped up from the air. The industry, consumer organizations discussed and recognized that there is a second level that we need in order to completely get rid of counterfeits.
Okay.
And the time had just come now. And notwithstanding the fact that we did public awareness at that particular time, we were anyway going to do a second phase of extensive public awareness. So it's not like somebody has discovered a mischief and then now everybody knows, and so that if we did not discover it, then we would not have known. No, that's not the issue. This is a project that was well laid out. It has committees, public awareness committees, technical committees, regulatory committees, and involving a lot of people.
But you have to agree the process of involving the public was a bit,
somebody just jumped the gun.
It was a bit lousy.
No, it seems to me
Mark, somebody jumped the gun because we needed, as part of that public awareness, to completely understand the complete interworking relationship, so that the information is complete. You get my point? Because in any system, you have to do configuration and stuff like this.
Right.
Yes. So you need
to add on to that, because I think he's not focused more on that awareness. I want to say, and you can confirm whether this is right, from 2006, CA embarked on what was being called Chukua Hatua, Consumer Outreach and Awareness Campaign, which went on, and it became it emerged to be a continuous thing, because I've been involved on it from inception, at least in various capacity, to its current form, which has been running for the last 3 years, called Kikao Kiku, County ICT Consumer Forum. So this has been going to literally now grassroots. It's not longer at the national level.
Very well done, Gakuru. But in this particular one, for DMS.
For DMS, I totally agree. It's not the best it should have been. They could have done better. That I agree, I admit.
Again, I think is that you can't be in the situation where you're saying, let us bring in the system, configure it, understand it, and then explain it.
I see.
I think you explained it from inception. So we all have this discussion. Do we want that system?
Right.
Everybody buys into it, and it's not just a matter of a few stakeholders. People who work. This should be a publicly carried out function. And that's my point. The other thing, and this might be just a quick thing. I think when you speak about handsets that blow up, etc. Again, this is not necessarily a counterfeit issue. When the Samsung sets were blowing up, these weren't counterfeit phones. Those were real phones that were made. They just had a problem from the manufacturer.
Yeah, but we are not addressing counterfeit.
So yeah, that's what I'm saying.
We are addressing substandard phones.
That's what I'm saying.
All right. Just on that point, because I see. Sorry, Gathara. We normally don't do this on Press Pass, but we're talking about people's phones supposedly being tapped. Well, we tapped through a line, and we're speaking to Chris, and I believe he's on the line. He's been waiting to give his contribution as he follows this conversation. Chris, if you may, just direct your question to the panel as you wish.
Yes, Mark.
Go ahead.
Yeah, my question is about the counterfeit phones.
Right.
Okay, do we have any service provider showing statistics or validating this argument that the counterfeit phones are affecting the level of service? Because what I know, the level of service depends with the service area covered by a BTS, not really the counterfeit devices affecting.
All right.
Another question also, why would you want to match my device against my MSICN? And because I purchased this device, I would like to use any line. I can choose to change my line. I can choose to use my wife's line on my phone. So I should have control over my phone.
Right.
Yeah, so I would like him to answer those two questions.
Thank you. I believe this is to Bona Kemei.
Yeah, thank you very much for those two very crucial questions. Mark, I think, let me start by saying the way wireless communication is designed and works is that the handset and the BTS, which is the next gadget that links up to the core network itself, they do communicate. For example, if you go farther away from the signal coming from the BTS, which is a base station, what happens to your handset is that it increases the power because it recognizes that it needs more power to be able to communicate. Okay? Now, that dynamic, interoperability, if it is not well designed, in fact, that is the thing that makes substandard handsets explode, because then it increases its power so much that the battery cannot take it, and then it explodes. You get my point? Okay. Or it increases its power so much so that it then interferes with the associated networks, and in fact can stop other people from communicating. Yes. So it must be within certain designed limits.
What of choosing to change whichever service provider you want?
In this, it's not a matter that we are going to prevent people from changing the handset or not. What usually happens is that when you change the SIM card, then your phone under this arrangement will then request an authorization to say, look, this is a new data set. Okay?
Yes.
And then the operator will just check with the database and say, yeah, it's okay. So somebody has just changed the SIM card, but we recognize the data set, the new data set that you've created. You continue like that. When you change again, unfortunately, again, it must reinitiate a new data set. But it doesn't stop you from communicating.
Right.
So it just makes sure that there is integrity in the process, whether you are changing your handset or whatever, there is integrity in the whole arrangement.
Okay. Edwin.
Mark, the way he puts is very simple, that you put another line and it requests for the change of IMI and the link. So that means if I steal your phone and I put my line, it will still work. If you put it that smoothly, then I just steal your phone, put another line, it requests, it is guaranteed, and then it moves on.
No, but remember there are 3 data sets that you have to go through. At least 2 of them must concur. So if you steal my phone, you won't get the third parameter to confirm.
Yeah, and I just want to...
Isn't it the SIM card?
It could be one of the 3.
That's what I'm a bit confused here. If actually what you have is a system that locks your phone with a SIM card, a particular SIM card to a particular phone, then that is something that I think when people who regularly switch SIM cards, use different devices, need to know about, and need to know then how will they tackle this and how will it affect them.
Absolutely.
And I think these are the things that just quite quickly, one of the things that you talked about, when I go back to the issue of whether we're talking of substandard or counterfeit, when you speak of having a whitelist of devices, allowed devices, etc., that whitelist does not identify the quality of these devices. What it says is whether they are genuine, they're recognized or not. And that's my point, is I think you need to at least explain to me better.
No, I think you're confusing.
How it would be.
For an handset to be allowed to be marketed in this part, in the whole world, you must meet certain standards, and you must then take that particular design to a laboratory where it is then evaluated against these standards. Right. It's only at that point then you can get the mark from either the accredited laboratory that tested and said, yes, this handset meets these standards. And remember, standards are done at a global level.
Right.
In fact, ITU is the one that does the standards. So when you say that if a phone if a phone is not as long as it's not genuine, it doesn't matter. There is a direct correlation between those two.
My point is, you had exploding phones that were sold all across the world.
Yes.
That had passes, and what you would see them would be on your list.
And that is why
genuine phones.
Alex.
Yes, I want to interject between the 2 gentlemen and ask 2 questions. One of them is that if you change your phone, the SIM card, because the number exists, if it was stolen, you'll have blocked it. Whether it's counterfeit, it will not have existed. So two problems are solved at the same time. So I am happy that the fact that that flexibility is there because there's no inconvenience. The second question I want to pose amongst all of us is to look at this problem the other way around. Supposing we all decide this thing is too much to bear, whether it's imaginary or real, that we say we don't want this system. What do we stand to lose? What do we stand to gain? Maybe that could be another question that could help us understand, are we okay if we've killed it completely?
And that's something that also came out in one of your reports, I think it was one on Sunday Nation, that there could be some costs incurred by the service providers in implementing this, that they had not been well consulted about. But could there be, in the long run, something that they are fighting in terms of losing profit? I mean, that's another part of the story that needs to be told, in case this is just them blatantly fighting this implementation of DMS.
I think the question of whether we can do away with the whole thing together and then we lose some 1, 2, 3 things do not apply. Actually, we can't do away with it. It is something we really need, and we need to set it up. The question is, how do we set it up? If the regulator hosts the DMS, and in tight collaborations with the communication service providers, I mean the mobile operators, the public, because those are the only stakeholders involved, then I think these issues will not arise. If the regulator says we only want the IMEI and the link is straight to that and strictly that, there is nothing about privacy. But if all these other issues now come up, you see, the way this thing has been implemented is highly suspicious. Even now, they're saying he's just confirmed that it should have been rolled out in May. I have a letter with me here that is written to one of the service providers, dated 6th of February. Now, this letter says, and I will just read very fast, that the contractor wishes to be at your site as from 21st February. That's tomorrow. Actually, today they were meant to be at Orange, Kenya. Tomorrow was Safaricom, and the next day will be Airtel. That was the plan, if we did not write anything on Friday. So you see, all the undertones under it raise a lot of suspicion. Right. There needs to be transparency and objectivity, and we stick to what we are looking at. Fake phones, IMI, block them, whitelist, database. That's what we need.
Kemei, you have the inside. You have the inside scoop.
Yes,
I want to put this to you. You have the inside scoop. Is there a cost that they're trying to avoid in terms of the service providers? Is there something they're trying to fight within this DMS?
Mark, I really, you are inviting me to speculate.
Not speculation, because this was said by DG Wanwangusi. He said that they are misinforming the public with this particular information, that this is spying on the public or a plan to spy on the public. Why would they come up with this to try and stop the implementation of the same? Is there something within the industry that is going to be maybe a big burden to them, cost-wise?
I can only speculate, unfortunately, Mark. I think, again...
Just outright rebellion.
Yes, I think, again, I wouldn't understand why anybody would oppose such a thing. As my colleague has rightfully said, this is not the kind of thing that you really want to go against. Perhaps there could be some commercial, consideration that perhaps there will be a lot of, customers that are going to be switched off, and that has revenue implications.
Right.
I'm not too sure.
Jump in on this point as you continue.
Yes, just to jump in a little bit. Here is the regulator bringing in someone, the Lebanese firm and the local partner, in between the network provider and the customers. And you see the way they have stood in defense. Now, this is the arbitrator, this is the referee. Who stands for the consumer? Even when there's a dispute in this setup, who will arbitrate between the consumer and probably...
An important question.
I really need to address this.
Yes, and you do. And as you do, one of the issues I'd like is a description of what's the scale of the problem that we're actually talking about. When you talk about counterfeit phones, how many are actually there? And that actually informs some of the one thing that Alex said that I find interesting. You say that your phone gets stolen, you can block the SIM card. Eric before had said you can make a call, you can report to the police, they can block the phone itself. So are we in a sense going after a small problem with a hammer, or what is the scale? Is this a huge problem that requires all of these things that are being brought in, or is it that, and I think that's part of why we have suspicions, is that nobody's explaining how big is this, what is the problem we're fixing, and why is it that what we already have is inadequate?
Quick response. One of them, I first of all oppose to the final statement now, because he has increased the level of suspicion, because he has now described a farm as being Lebanese, just like we had during the digital migration. The way you spark North Koreans, Chinese during election year. I agree, but then when the undertones, because then we start shifting from the major issue we are trying to address, because somebody could come from anywhere, Venezuela, Cuba, but it's a solution we should focus on, because when we lump something, we lose focus on what we are trying to address. Now, his question is, he's talking of an earlier system where you could call the police and they block.
Yes.
Now, I'm saying, let's centralize where all these phones are stolen, because every viewer, every person with a mobile phone has had their phone or a friend stolen. Let's make it easier. The same way you get a code to activate a line to confirm, let it be a system that also addresses both, not just counterfeit. I want also the stolen one. So it's centralized. That way we are moving forward one step. Let's not say for that one go to the police, the central police station. For the other one go to the operator. For the other one, you are making an inconvenience for the consumer. Okay. Now, since he does not oppose the system being implemented, he says it's good. If it's the information is there. And then I challenge the CA. And I admit maybe they didn't do it properly, to just come up and explain to all of us, those who have even a slight doubt, so that all our fears are eliminated and we see how good this is.
Yes. Yeah. As he asked, who's speaking for the consumer?
Yeah. Thank you very much, and we really do appreciate the comments that are coming through, and I must insist, Mark, that when you read a letter, and first of all, I don't know how you found this letter, and anyway, that's a story for another day. I can see my signature over there. Mark, we need to understand that there are some, when you're installing certain systems, it doesn't like you plug it and play. This is not like a radio that you buy and just plug it and then it's woof on. So that if you see that letter that is mentioned, it is basically telling the operators that on this particular date, we want to visit your premises so that we can discuss the point of interfacing.
So Tuesday was just discussing. Tomorrow would have been just discussing.
It was just discussing.
Not implementing, not rolling.
No. This is not the kind of thing that you implement even in a month. Okay. It takes a lot of time to integrate and stuff like this, and that's what I mentioned to him earlier. Perhaps we are comparing a radio and a spectrum monitoring unit and thinking that you use the same techniques to. If you have to build this studio, would you build it overnight?
Of course not. But it will be a starting date.
It's a similar thing. Yes. So when you start preparatory work and then you have to again sit down, discuss this, you disagree, and so on. What would have been the
and that's why I said what would have been the launch date?
It would have been at least from June onwards.
June onwards.
And in between, according to the plan, in between, and I invite him to come and look at the project implementation plan if he wants to. I already share the contract. He says he has the contract. I don't know how he got it, but I would show him that the project implementation plan actually is a stretch of 3 months at the technical level, and within this period there is a much longer period for public awareness campaign. As I said, it's just somebody that decided to jump the gun at some point.
Now in the wrapping up phase.
But quickly, you still haven't talked about the scale of the problem.
The scale of the problem is difficult to estimate the number of cloned phones because they happen on a daily basis.
And on that point, someone is asking, are there statistics available from the operators themselves in terms of these counterfeits?
No.
They don't provide.
No, you can only do a dipstick to understand the level. But our own simple analysis has shown that at least 10% of the handsets out there, so it's about 3 million, are cloned.
All right. But that warranted this particular response and implementation of the DMS.
I mean, even if it was one,
right,
and that single one causes interference in the whole of Nairobi, do you want to live with it? This is not an issue that you want to say, because the scale is so small, let's live with it. No. If one handset is I mean, one device is able to explode on somebody's head and kill that person. It's not the kind of thing that you say, okay, we'll live with it.
All right.
It's a matter of, it is serious.
Okay.
We need to protect every single Kenyan at all costs.
All right, gentlemen, I have to wrap this up, and I'm giving you an opportunity to give us your last comments on this. Of course, there's never enough time here, but Bwana Edwin, there's the sector players, the telcos, and there's now moving forward with this particular story. I'm sure you're very keen on it. There's a lot of opposition in terms of what has gone out, some saying that this is just being sensational, causing alarm. But as your duty as a journalist with the Business Daily, how do we move forward?
In fact, okay, as a journalist now, the next step, I think, will be to now break it down.
Yes.
To the common man. Of course, we tried on Friday to even put a diagram on what exactly, what will happen. So the next stage will be to go into the nitty-gritties of how does it affect you. So where is this noise about snooping coming in? And then probably try and explain it into how it also benefits the consumers, so that we don't look like we have taken either side of the debate, because we stand in for the consumer, we stand in for the public. But it will be very important for CA to be objectively come out and explain this is what we are doing. If you saw the Friday's press conference, the DG said that they have only 247 staff, so they can't snoop into 30 billion SMSs. But that's, as he says, the scale doesn't matter. Even if you are snooping into one person, that's already a problem.
But it is the same, actually, as he's admitted, the same staff that will manage the DMS that he's saying they will be maintaining.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter the scale of how many. If you give me a system, I'll snoop 200 people at the same time.
Right.
So I think we need to get into the transparency level where we now open up, explain what it is, and then the public should not just come to rubber stamp what you have already installed.
Wouldn't it remain suspicious if the telcos, our sources, are not willing to come out and say, this is our concern, as so-and-so, this is our concern?
It will
probably
be
a gap in this.
Yeah, it will be, but you see, this is their regulator, this is their prefect. And you saw on Friday,
so is there a hint of intimidation?
They are taking very, there's a way the DG put it, they're taking very exceptional concern with those operators. I mean, there is a prefect up here, and he's been pushing it from last year, and it was about to explode. And then, by good luck, it came out to the public.
I mean, for me, I'm happy. First of all, for the author who came up with this breaking story, the cognition and admission is an important thing and it must go on.
Right.
I'm happy the CA has also seen there are things they could have done better, and it will do better. And probably now, in retrospect, I'm happy the operators are not here, because I was really prepared to come and maybe couldn't have had this nice way forward, going forward. And thirdly, and most importantly, let's not forget that in every jurisdiction, whether it's Kenya, whether it's in Russia, whether it's in the US, whether it's in the UK, there is a regulator that is answerable to the public interest. And this whole thing of regulatory capture through private interest, who don't even want regulation, they feel that free
for improvement. All I can say, Mark, is that I think the Kenya Information and Communications Act is very, very clear on the role of the regulator in respect of matters like this. First of all, the issue of snooping, is explicitly prohibited by law. And we've gone a step further to put as an express condition in every single license that we issue to prohibit any licensee from intercepting. Of course, they have the capacity. All this communication goes through their networks. They have all the storage facilities for your SMSs and whatever.
So you're prohibited from snooping?
Absolutely. In fact, that is the most material license condition that we provide to every licensee.
And what of the elections, as you give clarification?
And unfortunately, Mark, perhaps this has coincided with the period of electioneering, but as I said, this is an effort that we started about 5-6 years ago, and it's a journey. It's not going to end even this year or next year. It is a journey, because every step you take, you always face another challenge.
Will you invite the telcos to sit down, have a conversation, at least moving forward?
Actually, I think we are having a meeting with them tomorrow.
Okay.
We are having a cup of tea tomorrow.
Cup of tea. Are we welcome?
That'll be interesting.
Are we welcome?
And we hope that we will jointly come out of that and really allay the fears of Kenyans.
Hopefully we're welcome to cover. Gathara, as you wrap up, Big Brother's always watching.
Right, yes, he is. And I think that partly explains why people are nervous. But I think my closing comments, I'll say, first, scale does matter. If it was only one phone that we were looking for, how we would do it would be very different than if we're talking of 10 million phones. So scale does matter, and the CA really has to explain what justifies the particular system we have by explaining what are the failures of the ones that we have, and then what are the inconveniences that might come out of it. I think secondly, we've got to pay attention to things like the laws we have. We've got the Access to Information Act. That act actually compels government, ministries, agencies to put on their websites, all the contracts that they sign, that they enter into. They need to explain what it is that they're doing. This is not something that we need to be the ones going to ask for. They need to be proactively putting that out.
Shouldn't be
so
leaked.
When you're surprised that he's got the contract, actually, I'm surprised that you haven't put it on your website and said, these are the guys we've contracted, and this is what we've contracted them to do, and to explain that. Finally, when we talk of elections, I think the CA really needs to tell us what our chiefs were doing with our numbers. When they were calling people about registration. What is it? I never consented to anybody giving my local chief my number so that he could call me up and remind me I haven't registered it. You see, these are issues that are there, and for as long as you're mum about that sort of thing, then you create the avenues for suspicion.
That's
say
right.
that you look like you are coddling government here, and then you're pretending that you're protecting us.
Well, unfortunately, I didn't get a call from my chief. I think he doesn't recognize me. But anyway, I'm not inviting a call from him anyway. Thank you very much, Patrick Gathara. Thank you, Bona Kemei. Thank you, Edwin. I hope you're invited to the table of breakfast tea. Yeah, tomorrow. Let's hope. And also, Bona Gakuru, thank you very much. Let's engage moving further. Thank you for watching. Thank you to the team that makes this possible every Monday. My name is Mark Masai. Have yourself a good night.